now when you can see it's the general place.
How long does it take a Muslim to sure I'm supposed to to the work? Probably that. So where we last left off, we discussed, generally speaking, that the pilot has a series of the financial columns. I wanted to just get that back into the record and go category by category and make sure that our questions are addressed on each category. Again, what we'll do is make sure the council has all their questions asked, and of course, doing public comments, both in the workshop to go all the public comment periods, and then again, the council seems to open meeting to public emotionally dot to pilot public hearing. So, with that being said, we have a $47 million upfront payment. And that payment was made available generally speaking for capital and infrastructure projects. Correct. And there is no reason to believe that the entire $47 million is available for use. Correct? The entire $47 million has to be spent in 3 years. Is that correct?
The entire $47 million does not have to be spent in 3 years.
Thank you. And so what does have to be in 3 years is if a project were to be started. So, for example, if you were to do a project that was $5 million, that project would have to be ended in 3 years, but not the entire 47. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the borough could choose to have several concurring contemporaneous projects running. A $5 million one, a $1 million one, a $20 million one, a $3 million one, and each of them would have their own clocks running. Is that correct?
As long as they're each individually financed, yes. If you were to group them together, and look at the cost would be for efficiency purposes.
Yes.
Like you do with many other projects.
Okay. So that's the general $47 million. Adding out those to the boroughs use. Those items can be used in union with capital projects as long as we satisfy the other requirements, doing at least one capital project in the redevelopment area. You could also partner with Word Education. Is that true?
Yeah. You have to have the traditional state law ability to do a project for that. But if you do have that, then yes, you'd be able to.
So, for example, if they wanted to do a capital project, the borough could assist in that as well. You can influence them
through some sort of shared service or other arrangement. Yes.
So there's an opportunity, and in that instance, they would benefit the municipal taxpayer budget for the school system. So that would be is anyone on the number of the $47 million? None of that is statutorily shared with the county or anyone else. That is available to us.
Correct. That is yet bond proceeds that get deposited into the construction fund for borough.
Any questions related to the 47 Josie?
It was just a question of the timeline, 16 projects. Supposing we get the brains on our people, these projects on here, do we get more attention?
You do. Yes. With an architect's or an engineer's certificate, basically explaining that you can get up to 5 years in either then. COVID, for example, we saw these longer.
Correct. Anyone that can answer before we move on with that? Yeah, I did that question. Oh, I'm sorry.
The financial advisor, if it will be benefit to the board, is take it one stop if the quantitative or be
Well, okay, I just wanted to hear. Yes. Oh, Brent?
Okay, so I'm still stuck on this 50 versus 5 years. So we brought down one. We have 3 years to use it. But then the rest of it, 6 years to decide to use it.
but take all the money down and seek to spend it in a time that works within 3 years, or you could take it. See,
As long as we want. You don't have to speak that $47 million for any time period.
those things, that's consequences.
So then if we let it stick, are there
For taxes and law.
If you spend it on year 27 and not before.
Another one.
I understand that point. Or was someone on it to be, you know,
Gosh, it was not the but you haven't borrowed it at the 3 o'clock then. That was just,
Yeah. So one, I'm going to give an example as a project. I can probably want people to support, maybe we support some of the question. People thought that hazing a portion of the downtown part was well was reasonable. Then in that Eatontown started spending $500,000 was pretending to take down 500,000. So in that particular project, but that was 3-year plan. And the 46.5 million, if you only wanted to do that one thing, would just sit there for the next time you had another project. But then to buy them or not, it's a different story. You probably want to bundle things together, but that would be a legally permissible option. Correct.
sorry, no. Just okay. I'm still stuck on that 5 tier sorry, prejudice several times now. By the Shannon, where I'm not sure I'm trying to wrap my head around the here.
it counts. What I think the challenge there is right. The clock that you're talking about is an internal revenue code driven clock. It's not driven by the financial agreement. It really has nothing to do with the business deal that is in front of the borough for consideration. It is simply a matter of once the governing body decides how to deploy that money, whether they decide that today, 6 months from now, 3 years from now, and you borrow that money to fund that project that you undertake, then your 3-year clock starts with respect to that corporation.
So then we don't have a bunch of stuff like you can see it
Correct.
right now.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay, interesting.
It's exciting. Go on.
But
Step one.
but we're limited on it. I
Absolutely.
like well we can't everything so much.
Yep. So I think you talked last time that as a general matter, you should assume. The reason I say it's a general matter, the Internal Revenue Code, as you can imagine, is rife with exceptions and exceptions to exceptions. As a general matter, we should assume that we cannot invest any bond proceeds that we actually borrow in excess of the interest rate on the bonds, which in this case is 5%. There are exceptions to that, where we may be allowed, legally permitted, to invest at a higher rate and keep that excess earnings. That's a road we'll go down once you tell us what do you want to spend money. But as a general matter, you will earn on interest on bond proceeds once you borrow them, from the day you borrow them until the day you spend them. And that interest rate, as a general matter, is not going to exceed the interest rate in bonds, which is 5%.
So now the bonds will be drawn, how do we want to say it right way to say it, once Netflix closes. Is there a service obligation we closing that those bonds have squeezed up on which bonds are not that are they included to host those bonds? Are they owned by Yasmin? So they own how do you purchase the bonds?
Right. So all of the authorizations for the bonds will be put in place, assuming we move forward, and like the financial agreement will be put in place in the coming, let's say, 2 months. Right? The local finance board is a state agency to approve the bond transaction, and then you as a governing body will have to adopt a resolution that authorizes just the issuance of those bonds. Once that's done, all the authorizations are in place. Then you have as much or as little time as you want to determine when you would issue the first series of bonds to fund projects. When you do that, the borough is going to be selling its funds that you authorize to Netflix. They will pay you, the borough, the purchase price. That purchase price is what your games and your projects.
That's what they know. That's what the bonds.
They will own. They will be the purchaser of the bonds. Correct.
So they don't fall lines. Okay. So we get his excess monies.
Something if you don't mind, I wasn't just going to do category by category. So when someone follows the minutes, they can see. I mean, if you want to do it now, but I was hoping to do 37 lands that's accessible. So when we follow the minutes, keep going. That'd be stopping.
Okay. Questions on.
Then if you don't, they don't have them. And I'm like, well, is it's going to mess with the flow? Then he has to, yeah.
Well, that's all. You know, that's okay. That's fine. Just that's awesome. So, one, the $47 million can only be for pounding project, infrastructure projects, right? And except for within the fighter or architect or something like that, you can use any of that. But the money itself wants to use the interest sometimes because of the roads, the hall, sewers, you know.
So I would, yes, and I would think of it the same way because of it when you have the those bills to fudge any other project, right? The same similar rules apply in terms of what you can use bond proceeds for. So roads, acquisition of equipment, whatever those intersubject projects are, and they always the cost of the professionals that are involved in this project, architect, engineer, environmental, survey, because the soft costs are the ones that are inherent in connection with the project itself. All the planning and design, engineering, all of those quote unquote soft costs. You know?
So, say down the road, the state becomes like a son, and people off dividing pilots. Get it in the space.
Yeah. So I don't know what type of law you're talking about, but so yeah, absolutely. We see those types of laws being proposed all the time. The state is not allowed to impair existing contracts. You cannot legislatively do something that impairs the existing contract. It's actually a state constitutional issue. So the state would not be able to adopt legislation that would retroactively go back, adversely impacting contracts like yours that has already been executed. In this case, of this.
Yeah. Do we have to have this done with 28 close?
Hold on, what do we do? No, we don't. I was, because that's another, it's part of my job to do. So in pilot, it's not a requirement of them to quote. Legally, you can, the capacity agency closed without much. However, there's a timing issue. And the timing issue is people used to use the right words for things. When project begins to go vertically, municipalities no longer able to enter into the pipe. So the right for that they want to start producing in 2020. From the rumor mill, I've been hearing they're really looking for the end of 2027, which means that they are going to go vertical to this class. And there's so much stuff that they've actually asked permission from air. And the demoing buildings that they're on risk, yeah, before they even close. If they don't close, all the money that's spent on demo is gone. So they're so interested in going forward with their construction that they're starting growth. So once they go vertical, once they erect the beams to go forward, we tend not enter into pies. So let's pretend, for the ordinance is introduced, FEMA 2 not adopted this year, have to reintroduce the jet, right? And then we would have to get it done before they went vertical. But once they go vertical, it's within time. Later, leaving.
So now, I'm sorry, I'm going to try to provide in 1 second. If we do this, we pass the ordinance from the pilot and then we make the play, if I close the house, is that not any impact on it? Well,
It is not. The financial agreement that you're considering by ordinance tonight memorializes the terms of the pilot. The pilot is the tax on the improvements when they are completed. So just whether they're completed at the end of 2027 or the middle or end of 2028, what this agreement says is once they're completed, this is kind of on the pilot.
So now, if they don't close or don't, if we approve this and then they don't proceed for whatever reason, the pilot will, you can't have it to this raise questions. Yeah, you did as well, right?
Okay, thank you. The next category is land tax. My understanding is that land taxes is the portion of land, if you look at your tax bill, you see land and improvements, which are most directly related to what you see on those lands. And the land taxes are paid in year number one, assuming they close in 2025, year number one will be 2026. And they will, that land taxes are allocated and shared across all taxing jurisdictions. Is that correct? Yep. So that means that in 2026, assuming they close, and that's the year one, now there's a point to make, but I think they're going to, but to the point, year one will be the first year, and $550,000. That's what we allocated according to whatever the then percentage is for each jurisdiction. County may have 11, the high school may have 18, the local school may have 32, and that 550 would be allocated now. Is that correct? Correct. There's nothing that a future council can do to change that. And then let's say law changes. This is a contract, so we can't do that. So as a matter of signing this contract, we can calculate the gross amount that's received every year in land taxes, and then each year, once we know the percentage of jurisdiction, we'll know what jurisdiction got based on that money coming in, correct? Yeah.
So we're still assessing the properties, but it won't impact.
We still assess the community.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the land tax column. Any further questions on the land tax? It's rather straightforward. It's allocated by the jurisdiction. Yeah, we're good on it. Oh,
So then when you say that, the jurisdiction,
The
the
taxing
school,
so there's the county board of health, there's the county library system, there's the county, there's the regional system, the local system, and that if we had a fire district or whatever it is, you know, and then there's the local. So those districts all have a portion somewhere on the chart, but
they would get.
they need to get a portion according to those districts. The next tax doesn't. That's my understanding that in year number one, the 550 will be allocated land taxes. Year number two, 566, 500 will be allocated land taxes. Year number three, 583, 495 will be allocated land taxes. And in year number three, net, the borough will get 501, 575, correct? So that number comes to us after the county share of the gross amount has already been taken care of. So 501, 575 is what the borough can receive. So when the administrators, because our budget is planning the budget and looking at the revenue in addition to the income stream that they use with the mall pilot and all the construction revenue, forward cost expectations, all those things, he will know for certain that 501, 575 is coming in on the municipal side, correct? Correct. Can its council now choose how that's going to be spent in the future? Exactly. So it is in my belief that a future council every single year should make sure that the excess municipal column is shared with the local board. Each council appropriating. Just for the record, I'm calling every single board of the member one was a quicker conversation because they were running out, and I explained to every single board that member that the council has publicly stated, there's a newspaper, and there was whenever any closed session discussion, non-citizens, that we have every intention of sharing not only what you're entitled to on the land taxes, because that's your anyway, are not only working on capital projects at the 47 million, but also the excess municipal. I've spoken with the superintendent, the administrator has spoken with the superintendent. So I wanted to be clear on this record that as far as I can tell, every member of the governing body is interested in how this meeting to share that school system. Now, year by year, there may be a different way of doing it. One year, they may want something that's more heavy from the capital projects because that's getting paid for the taxpayer one money. And another year, they may want something from the excess municipal. And each year's governing body. Just one last question, to be clear, tonight, we determine that excess municipal should be divided up the same way as land taxes and gas if what else an ordinance tonight, a future council could change it, correct? Correct. Anyone have any questions about the excess municipal talk? No, look, please.
Sorry.
Don't want the public to know that we're getting our budget.
Property owners of municipality that failed to pay their
But so
to us, but I'm not sure what power we have to really do anything other than trying to enforce it. Particularly remember, because a portion of this, not the portion of this schedule, the portion of the schedule is going to pay debt service on bonds. So that you're causing a delay in payment of bond holders.
well, Fifth was exploding bonds to delay the biggest of themselves.
Well, again, and the purchaser, whether they end up, sending it off to a separate business entity or somebody else, that's up to them. So at the end of the day, the bondholder is entitled to those payments. And incidentally, if they are short in a payment, our payment comes before the bond payment, right? Importantly, the unpledged portion, which comes to the borough, resulting in, as the mayor just pointed out, the excess municipal, that comes to you before the bondholder gets their share in priority.
So if you wanted to only pay themselves, if it's sure paying the way the entities will pay you, you put themselves first for your buyer second, you burn it compete for it.
Correct.
So there anyone who wants to have to buy value.
So the board's straight saying they have to put on a quarterly or yearly basis.
Yeah, so in the financial agreement itself, there are a couple provisions that govern obligations they have. At the end of the project, they have to send you a certification of total project costs. And every year they have to send you and the state an audit of their financials so that you can reconcile against the payments that they're supposed to be making.
That's if I know after more about it. Even
So now that you address
Let's continue with this. We've already established most of the plan. So this, the, it's in your pocket. Yes.
don't be getting taxed in the future. Don't be taxed clean, but that would not.
Correct. As long as there are bonds outstanding, we're not the only one at a table in the event that they default or fail to pay. Right. So, and I would argue that you would not want to terminate the pilot for all the reasons in a default situation, for all of the reasons that we talked about at the last meeting as to why you would want to do the pilot, right? Economic certainty, avoidance of cost and liability in the tax liens, tax appeals over and over, and the acceleration of the benefit to day one, not only beyond year 3, when this will first otherwise start coming in, and obviously over the 30 years, we would say you get that funding otherwise. So, for all those reasons, I don't think you terminate the pilot, which you would have the ability to do. You would enforce via the lien. You would sell as part of the lien sale.
Okay. So next year they default, then you do it again. You do it again, so you do it again, and we get paid, and they'd be charged an incredible amount of interest by the person who would launch.
That pilot is transferable if they decide to sell to another studio. Got the streaming company.
So that's a great question. The financial agreement and the pilot run with the land. So no matter who they sell it to, no matter what the business of that entity is or that purchaser is, the pilot runs with the land and stays with that.
And just to call up on that point, that it's their world is based on the land.
and then we took the payment bond. It's like that. If there were, let's say, Netflix were to sell that property, that those liens would go to the seller because that lien is attaching the title, not or the land, not the actual owner of the.
Right. I think when you're going is you would expect that the purchaser would insist that their purchase price first go to pay off the delinquent liens on the property
Yeah.
before any money inures to the benefit of Netflix. And there's a closing form that would actually literally specify the waterfall of payments, who gets paid what as that purchase price at the real estate.
Thank you for clarifying. So similar to if you were to sell a residential property that has taxing on it, and of course, it satisfied that the amount that is due on my fee, that is deducted from its closings.
Right.
And purchase price. Thank you very much.
Okay. So I'm going to open the meeting to the public. Be mindful that the council is to have a public hearing and move for adoption for at the regular meeting. There'll be a second public hearing and welcome to come to vote. So meeting is now
One of the same issues will be this.
and so you're welcome. So don't not come now because you want to come later, or don't phrase advice of a meeting is open to the public. If anybody would like to be heard on this, if we're here for the CD, this is not good time, Nicole. So next time, thank you. And so the CDA was separate public hearing, and the reason why we're doing it separate is because it's a part of the CDA agreement. We see that we attached a portion of the minutes dealing with the CDA, and that gets filed with the agreement. For the public interest. So does anyone like to discuss the Netflix pilot? Is come to the microphone? Yes, well, CBA agreement is a $5 million agreement that's been discussed the regular meeting, and for that is something that's separate as part of the pilot. It's tied to this fire funding that the tax credit that they received. So I just want to make sure that we're clear. Everyone in the room knows that if you have questions about the pilot, this is one of the 3 times usually talked about. Now, if the council chooses to adopt, and then at the end, after adopted, there's a public hearing at the end of the meeting. No one is moving if they have questions. Let me start on it. Oh, please. I just want to be very clear that this is the welcome. This is your name and address, please?
Kathleen Williams, 2 Broad Street.
Thank you.
My question is the structure of the agreement, the pilot agreement, the fact that, let me start again. The last time I'm just not understanding. The last time my understanding was if we were to give anything to the schools, the council could decide and it would come out of the excess municipal money.
That's partially correct. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I know it automatically comes out of the land taxes.
That's correct.
Right. But I'm saying out of the goodness of your heart, they're not part of the pilot. So my question is it the way that this pilot is structured that we are not including the schools, or could we have restructured this pilot to guarantee that the schools would have ascertained a certain amount of money, therefore guaranteeing tax relief, period? Not whether or not, say we decide to do, $39 million worth of infrastructure. And just say it goes into the municipal building. Let's not call it what it is. It could. And then we use $5 million for the roads and we're out of money. We have maybe $1 million left. So we really can't help the schools. Can we, or could we have restructured this agreement, this pilot, and use different types of bonds to make certain that the schools receive $10 million?
Number 2,
But that's only going to be up to council.
very true. And every year's council.
Mayor. Yeah, but I think Matt answered the legal question.
Yeah, so I just wanted you to clear. I truly do believe. I don't think anyone was be serving their job very well. One of the directors saying that it didn't share this with Matt. The legal question couldn't be structured different.
Right. So the answer is no. And I'd love to turn around and talk to you, but the mic doesn't quite get there, so I apologize. But the long-term tax exemption law specifies by statute that of every pilot dollar paid, 95 cents goes to the municipality and 5 cents goes to the county. So similar to the way the municipality has no real say over how the land tax dollars are bifurcated across your, or split up across your 5 or 6 taxing districts. The state statute says your pilot dollar is only split between the municipality and the county. What the borough is then saying is, okay, we will then take that municipal share, that's 95%, and we will decide annually to provide some of it for that.
But because we have, so the idea of that, 5%, 7%,
This agreement isn't with the Board of Ed. So this agreement is only between the entity that's paying you and you, right? What you're talking about is something that's between you as a Board of Ed that says, we are going to do this for you.
And answer your question, then clarify that. I wish I had clarified that, right? I was going back and reading everything I could on Facebook. I wish I had clarified that when the law pilot came out, because there was questions why you didn't do it. And there's a significant man tax account for the law as well. And the schools are certainly getting money from the law. I wish I had spoken with that clarity then, but that's the
Well, because of the confusion, what I'm a little confused about is you keep hearing pilots are good, pilots are bad, but you do hear that there's pilots that really work well for communities. And because of the pilot, the taxpayers have gotten some of them directly.
agreed.
So I'm still not understanding how are we going to see the other than what you're saying is, of course, that fixing the roads, building the municipal building, fixing the dam is not going to come directly out of our pockets because there won't be an increase. But do you get what I'm saying? So there isn't any direct relief coming, meaning my tax bill is going to drop. And these tax bills are going to drop because we can give.
That's right. The mayor and the board would have been luck, and I guarantee you that other members of council have already spoken with the board members. So yes, it could happen that way. But I'm telling you, it should never happen here because of that relationship. Matt, can you give a further detail? What I want to say that with regard to tax relief, where I respectfully disagree is if you follow the assumption, and it better be true, that any project we do, like not some rocky statue somewhere, actual real project is a project that we actually need. If we do that, and Netflix does never give us, the military state, remember Impact Aid ending, he lost money on school children, all that for years. As Mayor Zarantello was concerned, he was right about it. Get mad that we lost $20-some million. And if we were not to do that, and Netflix never came, we would still need to pay Apple Street. The sewers are still going to leak. The dam is still going to fall apart. When that happens, we would have to cost the taxpayers money. And instead of doing that, it's going to come out of this 47. If instead we say, let's go do that thing that only this jerk right here wants to do without letting, that would be a very big waste of money. And it would be bad decision. And you're right, the taxpayers would not see relief because we're making up a project, an unnecessary thing. And that would be all. I think the projects that we're looking at are projects that we have a public interest in doing. I don't know anyone who hasn't campaigned for office without the word downtown in the literature. The downtown needs a lot of help. I'm sure that if we all sat together in a room, we can think of a project in the downtown we'd be thankful that we did. See, certain roads are falling apart. You need area. So yes, if we follow the argument that we're going to do bad projects, of course, it'd be an awful waste. But we should be in office with that sort of thing. Right? So where did the choose the project back in your speaking?
Well, I just wanted to add that when it came to the, direct taxpayer benefit, the $47 million of infrastructure, everything you just said is correct. That's half, and something actually less than half the story, right? Because that excess municipal column is about $49.5 million of revenue that is going directly into newfound revenue going directly into the budget, the municipal budget. That is money that will pay for things that otherwise could have and would have been paid for via taxes. So you also have, what I would argue are significant or material amounts of new revenue coming into the budget that will benefit the taxpayers directly.
Cannabis fees, right? Cannabis, and some towns and newspapers said, we're going to take this money and we're going to do X up to $1 billion. That's not how municipal budget works. They got good Facebook coverage, but that isn't how budget works. Then this little tax revenue coming in from cannabis, at a time, it was like $1,000 a day we were getting. That was, that came into the town that we didn't have to generate through tax revenue. Had we not had that revenue, when it came time to calculating what we need for our budget today. For licenses, if it's more than us, for money, on board capital trusted. So But the issue is that we don't waste an excess municipal. We don't go out and spend more than we would have spent anybody. Everything is a benefit to the taxpayer. Did you have more for the question? For now. Okay, good.
Many one go this is that actually has the similar practice with the gentleman. So one of the things that they clarified and when we get out of this thinking is that the excess municipal bond that we're receiving, it cannot go to operating costs, such as salaries.
The excess municipal is 10 formula.
Oh, it can?
Yes, that's the revenue stream. That's the revenue stream.
So what can that, so just to clarify,
47 million.
okay, so the 47 million did not go to like operating costs. So one thing that we have, I know other, our leadership has spoken these now, and I wanted to wait until after we had this public hearing, or I would jump into it as a liaison, is to see like what are some of the things that need to be done in terms of capital plan. Do we need to expand faster? Do we need to expand on multi-purpose road for gymnasium? Do we need to do TV and basketball courts, tennis courts, the science labs? Those are capital improvement projects, and that is, well, I would say, the allowable cost. Our concern was, as a governing body, yes, we will do this, and yes, we will help, and then we find out that it's not a permissible cost that we can send. So we will look ridiculous by making a promise and then us backing out saying you can't do that.
And just to clarify, it may be better for the taxpayer to not give supplements from excess municipal and go from the, let's say we need a $5 million project, and we choose to pay for the $5 million project upfront. If we did that,
Has the initial 47.
just as an example, there may be a mathematical way. Other people, not me, will be calculating. If the project X is a good project, someone is going to calculate which has the net benefit to the taxpayer. Do you pay for the project up front? 5 million is a made up number. In that, help the taxpayer check. Or is it better to tell the school, go do your $5 million project, and out of excess municipal, we will pay the principal and interest, so your rate payers aren't paying. There's a mathematical formula to do with something to benefit from it. So that's why it's project. And you can hear that. Mr. Newsom.
Thanks, Ken Gonzalez for serving. And if I'm right to assume that pretty much everything on this slide that we're seeing is a fixed cost. There's a fixed revenue for private cost. So is there a mechanism in place to account for increasing property tax? So for example, the value of my property 28 years ago when I moved into my house, was obviously 3 times as much as I paid for it 27 years ago. And my taxes have increased accordingly. So right now, those are the values that we are giving right now. We're going to take these to Netflix, but obviously that property is going to go up as well. Is there a mechanism that the taxpayers won't get sure? My taxes are between 45%. These are a lot. These ones were investing.
Is it negotiated about? If not negotiated about, it would have to be something that people are going to.
I think this is a fair time to answer Kevin's question also. To talk about tax appeals. Kevin, the assumption in Kevin's question is that it's always going to go up, right? Like local, like our homes have gone up. I could say in the area of commercial properties in town, we have a significant number of tax appeals for like all the properties on industrial lighthouse. So how would that, I think here Mike is. To give an example, when you say my business, like no one knows it. We get $100 from the taxpayer, from a commercial taxpayer, and they file an appeal, and it turns out the value's less than what the assessor put it at, and they're entitled to a $50 refund. The town, this borough, pays the $50, right? Not, so even though we took that $100 and we got in and gave 70 of that 100 to the school system collectively, the town budget refunds the $50. The school doesn't, and the county does. Right?
So there's an extra cost here. One of the risks is like when you look, I think it was 2016, April, right? At the time, it was totally different. Now you have the homeowners own value outpacing portion, right? So this specialty that may change if we don't. We don't have. I've had someone ask me, well, don't worry about finding like a caravan in New Jersey with quite the rate of easy for that. In Georgia, they have a studio like this. Why don't you just compare it to Georgia? Well, what if we take $1 million home in Eatontown and let's make next dollars for $5 bedroom house? What would be worth as Georgia's? So we would never say, oh, you're right. Well, in Georgia, that home is only worth $200,000. You're not allowed to compare us on the state. So we try, just so you're aware, to look at others to get some type of judgment of value, but there is none out there. There's not in Eatontown. It isn't like Warehouse on Industrial Way. There's nothing in the county, and there's certainly nothing of this power. So we didn't have a pilot in this radio set value. Do the opens every year litigation. That's just the reality. If you was a shareholder of that place, it was the undetermined amounts every year. You would have a lawyer who gets paid contingency to lower your taxes. Go ahead and get the lowest value you get.
So, I guess one question, obviously, my house has a definitive value that was assessed by the tax assessor. What is the value and that's the property when this was granted? I would think that they could probably not narrow it down to something a little more fun.
I'm telling you that this was worked out.
So is there a calculation based on 200 million or 400 million?
And let's pretend we said, oh, well, if you study financial planners said 200 to 400. Right? If you just say 400, you wouldn't. Well, if you just say 400, you go to court, and we build our budget based on 400. Remember, we assess everybody, we go out, and then we build a budget, and now everyone has that plan, and then it goes to court. Final court judge or the next court judge says, it's 280. What just happened, right? The homeowners now picks off, take a larger share, and that's where the risk comes in. And there's no side and the downside. You just don't, it's not a matter of, I've been asked to make a column. You should make every year for 30 years what we're going to get versus every year for 30 years what we get in the spring of taxation. If that was permissible, that would be known and set in the future. So that risk is truly here. I've identified on Fort Bottom through the 3 towns that I can tell you, at least one of Eatontown, where they wanted a pilot, there was a 0% chance that the council, I think we wanted a closed session to ask the council just to see. Wasn't even worth asking. Just why would you do the pilot to something that there was no uncertainty whatsoever? So in this instance, in my opinion, my recommendation to council, especially if they're coming out of the mall, is to eliminate these.
If I could just amplify one point, which is that, as Mike said, is that, so there were the assessors and even having notion for who worked with Netflix on value. It looked at profit because there's not going to be studios all over the place, right? They looked in London, they looked in Georgia, they looked in Chicago, places where Netflix are. It's obviously different than New Jersey environment. So what became clear to the group is the certainties, there is no certainties about valuation. And I keep telling you that Netflix is a challenge, underscored that point in our negotiations about that, why they wanted certainty, why it was in the borough's interest to get certainty, because of this point of how do you value 8 movie studios? And which is essentially like a warehouse with movie stuff inside of it, right? They were saying it should be valued like a warehouse because suites are not per square foot much. Then you have, but if then they're generating X amount of revenue, and then we should be looking at that. So it was I feel like it was a lot of uncertainty as the financial professionals have told us. That goes to the point of, it's a little different than how, like the local, like home, like here.
And that same uncertainty, the reverse with the law. We were certain they were going to lose the tax law. We were beyond certain. because there was ample documentation of value in Eatontown, the county, and the state. We knew with certainty, and it's the same certainty that had led me to believe that our effort is right and wrong to get us out of these markets with a tax case. No way whatsoever with over millions and millions and millions. That's the same uncertainty here because it's just the opposite. There's nothing to base the valuation.
But they're not suing us.
No, they're certainly not suing us. But just to be clear, they're a publicly traded company. And once they close, the actors are going to fill out their thing. And the group of lawyers are going to have to one job, bring down the cost. And with that, eventually, what do? You settle. Which way you settle? It's not going to be for you. So that was for me. It cost the, that question's going to come up later on.
Well, Bert, very few bring up. Why did we break off negotiations because we were doing the voting board together?
So, break off.
Yes.
Well, at some point, the problems and the issues, not problems, the analyses are global. We're learning about the industry, they're researching it, right? And you got companies, all of the people trying to learn the background, what's the right approach to this assessment. And a lot of that applies to both towns, right? Each town that you work at similar things in the towns. And then at some point, the issues are no longer the same, right? So I was hoping that the public would not expect us to have negotiations at the very end of the town. That was similar in many ways that I get. At some point, what is being built in Oceanport is different in terms of quantity, in terms of size and everything than what's being built in Eatontown. So I believe we were appropriate to spend a considerable period of time with Oceanport, making sure that we're collectively on the same page, understanding value. I think it served the public interest, both for the Eatontown residents and the Oceanport residents, to have another sounding board. Our professionals and their professionals were hearing similar things. It became local, just Eatontown, just Oceanport, to separate into having privacy that those discussions are discussed.
Yeah, but don't you think we could have gotten more if we would have signed with Oceanport and done these Ocean? Just because you have two entities. You have Oceanport and you have Eatontown. So if you would have stayed with them till the end, we probably could have gotten a lot more.
Well, I don't know how to quantify that a lot more, and I don't mean to be disrespectful when I say that. If you want to put your question in terms of quantifying a lot more, these two can respond to that. What I can tell you is that, and I respect the concept. Two is stronger than one, I get that. But conceptually, and some point, there are going to be issues related to taxation, building types that don't exist in Eatontown, that do exist in Oceanport, or vice versa. The development schedule in Oceanport is different than the development schedule in Eatontown. And I wouldn't want a professional, a hired professional, to think that two towns, simply because they have the word necklace in them, should be comparable to the very ends, because you would ignore the development timeline and what is actually being built. So yes, for the large part we did. Mayor Coffey and I began our discussions, and the mayor Taverdi came back. Good relationships with both, and we had a significant discussions with them going forward. In fact, we were already beginning. The mayor Taverdi was out. He was on the phone a couple of times, just chatting, making sure that there was a good transition. At some point, however, it was no longer a global thing. It was time to focus on what's in Eatontown and what's in Oceanport. So I think he accomplished both things. And hadn't been waiting too long, we might not be able to have a pilot if they might have had went vertical. But what if Oceanport went vertical second? And we missed an opportunity to have a pilot. Some would say great, and some would say bad. But if Eatontown went vertical first, and the law maybe is the unsettled legal area, because I know there's some concern about that. What if the judge says, no, the whole project is that's what your spider was funded on, and therefore Eatontown on vertical, not that Oceanport? There's a lot of money for here. We've considered all that.
Yeah, but again, was it evaluated 100 million, 280 million? I just think I think we could have done something like that.
And tell us what it should be.
Well, you don't know what it could be. Like I said, 400 million, 280 million.
So
That's a big difference.
it is a very big difference. It is a very big difference. But remember, in any negotiation, there's a spread, and there's a risk associated with each spread. I don't believe, based on all the discussions that we had, that we would necessarily have gotten on the top end. I don't believe that. And I think that we need to consider that it would have not a one time. No one's going to send a company like Netflix a tax bill. And they start the tax bill game, we assess this on 400 billion. All right, sign it. It's not going to happen. They're going to have a bunch of lawyers that are going to appeal. That will be their only job. They'll have local counsel. They will do nothing but appeal all day long. And there's a risk associated with that. How do you quantify that risk? I don't know. It's a value judgment based on people that deal with these projects around the state all the time. It's their profession. Public should want us to align up professionals that work in different towns around. So I can see that argument. You also don't then just like the law. The town was not going to enter into the public record. We are benefited because if we go to tax court, we will lose X $million in court. You know why? Because Cushman would go out and say, Your Honor, they admitted to the loss, and we would definitely do tax work. We're not going to publicly say now that it is definitely worth X dollars. Why? So they can back out of the pilot, and then we try to assess them for a penny more. They say, Your Honor, they already evaluated in the lower amount. This is a moving, fluid target that no one's so playing. This is conversations. Math and Mike will tell you. I read all these comments on Facebook. Saturday morning, Sunday night, out with their kids. I get a phone call. I'm out with my wife in the crap. I'll be back in 20 minutes. I get a phone call. I read this. Council member has a question. This is something we took extremely seriously, right? I may be in the hospital on Tuesday, so I call Billy, get this answer. He didn't have we took this extremely. If it was just a simple matter of 280 to 400, I could take that vote right now. Who chooses for it? It's right in our hands. The whole world would be for it. But I really assure you, there's far more to it. I'm just looking at two numbers and thinking,
Mayor, if I could just factually, what happened is that Netflix's appraiser came into posting with their valuation theories a while ago, and then that's what caused the meetings with the municipal assessors and then Mike Denwood to look at values issues. But there were the people who value these things. I would call them math people. Look at the word for me. You joking? But that there were significant discussions on valuation theories over lengthy meetings, both with the groups as well as through Mike's office as well. So there was not an agreement, at least in the meetings I sat in, between the financial professionals on how to value movies. That's the point. That's ultimately the point which we're trying to, I think what the pilot achieves is to eliminate that rim. But even when you're sitting informally with it, you're not in a courtroom where each side has an appraisal and you're fighting about each coin in a 50-page appraisal. Here, everyone was very collegial and they worked with one another over the years at different places. But at the end of the day, there were fundamental disagreements between Mike, our assessor, John Galuli, the assessor in Oceanport, John Butau, and Netflix's appraiser.
I used to testify in arbitration, and two people with the same licenses could sit there and have very different theories. It depends on which judge you had. It depends on how people negotiate. It happens all the time. And one of the ways that you have another check. Some meetings, the council members were in. Some meetings, they weren't. Some meetings, these two may not have been available. The quick phone call and you have me on. But the one thing that was consistent, the administrator and the attorney, was at everything. So if they knew that, council member, we're going to say this, Oceanport's here, we're going to say that, he had consistent representation. So they didn't just give a low number, Eatontown was there, and a high number was Oceanport was there. This was a well-developed team that did the best they could to advance. And and has there been years of settled tax law that movie studios are valued at X dollar per square foot? Guess what? We probably wouldn't be having one now. A pilot. Because it would simply say, we told it's something worth. You have years of tax law that are telling us what these things are worth. And so it would be very different. It's just that.
Okay, so what are we getting here? The full amount.
So what we're getting is
47 million. We're
We're getting-
28 million.
we're getting 47 million up front. And the ability to borrow through borrowing 47 million for capital projects. The column land tax to dispose is about 28 million. And the tax estimate is, you should have seen what it was like to put this up today. 28.8 million for land tax at 49.5. And those are the numbers there in gross numbers. But yeah, over time, getting like land taxes is only from 500 to 1.3. And the other column is 5 something to 3.5. So those are the known amounts. And it's certainty. And when you build to a municipal budget, when we know what your construction revenue is, or permit fees, your only by law allows to anticipate what you received the year before. Going into next year, I know people on Facebook who say, why isn't there higher construction revenue? They're building all that building. The state law doesn't permit us to include it in the budget until you have a year or two of active receiving it. So a lot of these, we're not going to feel this benefit in the future. And by the way, when the construction revenue does kick in, it's going to be great. And if the borough comes to rely on it, shame on us. But if we use it to level and smooth and have cautionary spending, we'd be doing a great job. And there's a lot of things that we thought about.
Okay, so I'm just gonna leave it this then. Netflix is worth about $518 billion. Okay. We're getting 300 and some million. All right. So property that could have went for 280 or 400. But what I'm trying to say is Netflix is worth $518 billion.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how it could be. I don't know how we can say take the value of your company and that's how we tax your profits. There's some people in Eatontown who are multi-millionaires. Their homes are assessed at $500,000. Right? There are 2 millionaires who live in a mobile home community that I know. You don't say the person's net worth, their net worth, or in this case, what the stock is trading at, and assess their property. That's just not founded in law. If it were, it would be great. String on with law. So we say, look how many billions the much is worth. We'll find some type of formula, and that's what the taxes is. Law doesn't permit.
And I would add is giving nearly $400 million to the project here. They're not here because Eatontown and Ocean Board of Investment movies. They're here because places seek to attract these types of businesses. Exactly. So, that should be remembered.
But for years, other states have better tax incentives because they work elsewhere. When this started to come back here, a lady called me who was working in New York. She was trying to figure out the time when they were going to open because she was running a series in New York right now. It's not yet. And she was literally the day when it come to New Jersey, this thing takes place. New Jersey has structured their legislation to get businesses here. And it was those enormous benefits, whether the state tax and everything, really disagree. The reality is they have to sweep in the pocket to get that.
Yeah, I mean, is the Netflix got to catch them in the and then.
My ask one of the trying to do had year 31 if highly developed. Then the property gives us sense and that stays for 30 years. You're still wherever they are today. How do we value the property to 31 years ago? What they have to really value. I mean, if you do that, it's crazy every year.
Correct.
What happened? One happened.
The assessor will have to make a decision at that time about value, and Netflix or whoever is there will either agree or if they know the value that they choose.
So we would be that kind of almost to square one.
Except you have 30 years.
Yeah. I mean, they're like, you've done well like that.
That's your 50 year thing and shit. And I'm out here in 30 years too.
You can't make that risk go away. No, it's made it go away for a generation.
30 years are out of us. You got one in 31 that comes up. Back to square one. Can you do another pilot?
So that's why I was trying to make the council on that. I think it's hard to describe or forecast what the world is like in 30 years. But under your scenario where they're still fully functioning, all of our tax laws and pilot laws and redevelopment laws are all still the same. I think one of the options would be Netflix does some sort of, decent improvement to the campus that would trigger our ability to enter into the that certainly would be one avenue we would want to explore again, if all other laws and circumstances are the same, to try and do that. What we can't do today is simply say, we're at year 30, let's just agree, keep the math running, let's do another 30 years without doing any improvements, right? You can't do that today to extend any pilot for any projects. I'm stating for that. That's not really. So what we would do is likely figure out a way to exit the pilot.
And also remember, after those 30 years, it won't be a new industry immediately. Some towns may give them pilots, some towns may not. There will be other film studios in the years development, and maybe you could say, hey, there's still uncertainty. But if we had 30 years of the state running in studios, and there's decent valuations out there, and professionals from 30 years see, now they have something to base of I want, but to say in 30 years, maybe, why the heck do we need to do a pilot? Because you're a common place, just like the warehouse on Industrial Way. That was a new thing years ago, and they're not new now, so you have to give a pilot for a warehouse on Industrial Way. And remember, when we began these discussions, Netflix had a very profitable business for they send CDs to the network. And when you started that, then, right? So that's what, who knows?
Also, understood that the last is reset.
As we
Is there-
stand here today, at the end of 30 years, the pilot terminates and the property is conventionally taxed. So if nothing else changes happens, correct?
Yes.
Hi, how are you doing? I'm Amy Downey, Brown Corporate Football on Main Street. First of all, thank you for all that you do. I know many are honorary seats and volunteering and dedicating your time. So thank you. I know you don't hear that a lot. Mayor, if I may ask, you tend to have a lot of certainty in terms of the reward versus the risk to the residents of Eatontown, whether it's the mall or Netflix. And I appreciate all the technicality, and I recognize how complex something like this could be done in such a short period of time. Even if it's 2 years, it's very, very short to discuss $1 billion studio and all that's involved. What I believe that as a resident, and many of us are wondering, can you have that same level of certainty about our taxes to at least maintain and not to increase because of the benefits? Because as a business owner myself, I've gotten a big hit over the years. As a resident, I haven't seen much of, I would say, benefits versus just lack thereof over the last couple of years. But obviously, to respect, there was COVID issues, there was inflation issues, and a lot more. This sounds like a great opportunity for Eatontown from what I'm hearing. How can we know as residents that that opportunity is going to at least protect us from having to worry? Because just about 2 weeks ago, I've done an event and I had 30 people in front of us, and I simply asked, how many in here have had their tax increase? And 90% of the room has raised their hands up, which I appreciate. So I'm wondering, can we have that same level of certainty that this is a good deal for Eatontown, and it is in terms of residents and their taxes, property tax, and of course, I understand there's a whole different body when it comes to educational, Board of Education. How does it increase? And can you give us a level of certainty on that as well?
Sure. So number one, thank you. And there are services that come with certain, so we know that if it were a housing development community that is bringing with the need for services, we have to buy trash collection, or we have to pay them to do it. There are school children to educate. In this instance here, we are receiving the benefit to not having to provide those services. So with regard to fire protection, I know there are people that have some questions about that. No decisions have to be about fire protection. That the council has already said we're not subsidizing any purchases for that. With regard to EMS volunteers, it was hard when it gets to that in human rights agreement. EMS, Netflix has already agreed as it relates to use county and Oceanport to use the county system. So what we hear when there's a new development in town, hey, it's going to be a drain on our volunteers, address that quite clearly. With regard to police, yes, I'm sure there's going to be some increase in police needs and calls, but I think that is going to be like Fort Knox over there, and I feel it's going to be a very secure facility. And in terms of types of projects where we have to hire new police officers, a lot less than other types of projects. There's that side. In terms of educating the children, there are no children in that school. There's no children in the school system from that project. There's no affordable housing associated with this project. There's no housing associated with this project. This separate thing, taken in and of itself, will reduce revenue that doesn't have a drain or a cost associated with it that other developments have. I don't know how to, nor does anyone know how to quantify that specifically, but there is a plus in that, number one. Also, let's not forget that while the people in your town hall, which I watched, may have raised their hand and said that their taxes went up, there are a significant number of people in Eatontown who do not complain on Facebook whose taxes have gone down or have gone up $1 or $2. Now, their argument is they're too high to begin with, so keeping the same isn't good enough. Respect them. But there are issues here with these signed in $17 amount of work in good company. In 2016, we approved the A to B program. You can sense at the time it was the right thing to do, and we share that. Yeah, responsibility. At the time, if you were here on when you lived in Eatontown, if you were here then, you would have seen how the bulk in taxes was detrimental to the homeowners the way things flipped. So as values come up and the homeowners take a larger share simply based on assessment, the borough will likely die. What happens done? So you don't have enough UW. You don't have enough lease. Of course not. We try to hire, we try to do what we can. We try to do part-time when we can. We try to do shared services. We have 6 or 7 shared services. We brought to make a lot of money on a tub grinder, which is why I notified the public that we need to get a tub grinder to lose that money in service. And that's for some of the lesser services that even may seen. We've got issues there. And so we thought we are collecting less. We are requiring less money for taxation. I don't believe it's as risky as some recent hosts have compared to be or said it to be. We have a very level money in that sense. So I can't sit here and tell you that it's a guarantee, but I'm in the company because no one needs to sit here and tell you that you're going to have a guarantee. Here's why the bills are predictability. Those who don't read on the right are guaranteed. We're going to get, and if they don't, we'll go to tax sale. We'll get them to tax sale. The middle number, land taxes. That's coming in. That's guaranteed. On property, we got nothing. Long before you were here, I'm assuming, the fort gave us millions of dollars in impact aid and federal government slowed. As the students dried up, the cost of educating increased and eventually lost about $27 million in terms of re-educating the governor's children, which is an admirable thing to do. Don't get me wrong. I respect that. But the residents of Eatontown subsidize them costs. This property doesn't have any taxing. So it is like what new development. It's great things. So when you combine the fact that we're mitigating risk, and we're not causing extra drain in terms of services that we have to perform, and when you combine that with the certainty of the payments, right? To me, it is a strong value proposition for the borough. And if we assume it, and very true, because shame on those who don't, that the 47 million are projects that we actually want to do because we need to do, then that's money that we don't have to spend. If tomorrow the administrator said about the report at the end of the year, you're short $1.5 million to the walk over it. These are close. I'll think about it. You can go on Facebook and say it's a good idea, a bad idea. At the end of the day, you need that $1 million, whatever it is, a made up number by going everybody for that dam. Someone's paying for it. Right now, we have that ability to tap into. Infrastructure was not always fun. People are afraid to vote on the capital budget. Every year we introduce an operating budget. Every single elected official knows the capital budget they paid them because it's 5% from the capital budget they operate. And then September comes and we have concerns with that. Fine. Or then we go to vote and spend on something that was in the capital budget and people say no. But these are capital items that we can fund that the town has often been looking on. So it's a great opportunity to reset this town, fix what we need with no taxpayers. Also, all those reasons.
So I totally appreciate this. Is the first time I had the opportunity to engage with you.
I was looking for you at my town hall. I was sitting in Bella looking at you.
I said let's have a one-on-one or a public hearing. I'm open for it. But just to follow up. So does that mean that you are confident? I won't use the word certainty because there is no such thing, right? You are confident that the pilot program is going to create a better quality of life for families with children like myself, and at the same exact time, somewhat of confidence level when it comes to everyday individual people's.
Yes. Yeah, I am confident. And I'm telling you though that when you look at it, I hope you consider the totality of the whole equation. When next year's tax bill comes out.
And just for the record, I've been in Eatontown since 2002, and I recognize Candace since my region of high school. We graduated together, so good seeing you. Can I have a quick?
I just want to just understand you're saying that. So you look at everything in the totality. Your assessment is going to come out in November. Somebody will say on Facebook, "Why am I being assessed so high? What happened to FDOS this year?" I hope you join me in saying the two are related. Your assessment in November.
100%. Yeah, you got me on the record on that one. My follow-up question is, the mall is expected to have, I believe, anywhere from 500 to 1,000 units, from value units, 1,000 residential units. That means 1,000 to potentially 4,000 new residents based on a single. So what are we assuming as far? Is it just one person?
1,000 is 1,000 units. About half are one bedroom. About half are two bedroom. And then there's a portion, the affordable things, 125 has a breakup of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom under the ratio of the affordable housing law. But I can't give all of the answer to my head, but somewhere around.
Well, let's assume it's going to be one person living per unit, right? So there will be 1,000 humans with 1,000 cars and 1,000 new opportunities for people who are going to need more of everything. And then you have the traffic that's going to be created from Netflix and all the extra population that we're going to be having in here. Whether it's via the pilot or taxes or else, are we prepared to handle that? And I mean, again, we still have a year, maybe 2 years probably before the madness takes part. Are we prepared for that financially and operationally speaking?
The county has is requiring improvements to the active memories along for Fort Myers. So widening the road, the county is doing that. The intersection of Chick Avenue and the memory and Route 35 is having improvements mandated by the DOT. Not the first taxpayer expense. There are improvements there that are being made so the jurisdictions that govern those roads have made the decisions and passed the cost forms and efforts for that there. With regard to the Monmouth Mall, the county and the state has made wherever the city made over their roads for the Monmouth Mall down. A little bit of trivia. There was a time when I was looking into swapping roads with the county where it made sense for maintenance or whatever. You might know that we just finished a multi-year plan through most of this with DOT funding to pay Industrial Lake West, which we own. Well, after we fully paid it, and now the county is almost done paving a lot of Whitecliff. The county said, "Hey, Mayor, why don't we swap Whitecliff Road with Industrial Lake?" We take Whitecliff Road, yelling at the Monmouth walls and all those units, and any concerns that happen with the wall, you have to fix it. So I said, "Well, you're welcome to approach the government by." But I don't think now that we know the mall is coming, you would certainly want to take Whitecliff Road as sparkly and new as it is now to fix it if we have this problem. Those are decisions that you're going to important, but we are always looking for those types.
Perfect. When do I get a one-on-one exclusive?
November 5th.
I see what you did there. I'm sure that they don't want it. Well, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Anyone else before we go to regular session? That's great.
You mentioned about tax sale. This is how crazy. You can have little piece of tax sale.
On the land portion or on the title?
If they were, building on it, they would pay.
Right. So you would put the lien for sale. You would collect the revenue. A third party investor was in own that lien, and that's what's what the way you have to redeem and go off. And in the meantime, the rest of the financial agreement would continue. I mean, it is, to be clear, it's a default of the financial agreement if they fail to send their lien taxes. Right. So they are in violation of the financial agreement. But again, to the extent that what we care about at the end of the day is that they are paying and we are collecting the revenues off the financial agreement, that would continue.
Mr. Rice, I would like to say just one thing. We can do this until 1 o'clock in the morning, but we also have a public hearing on the community benefit agreement. And I would start with the people that are here representing the school and everything. I would like to soon get into that public hearing. Public hearing, and that's what's later. But I want to at least make sure that we cover that before people have babysitting duty or mom and dad duty and pick up their kid from days that are there. Mr. Ross.
I'll tell you what, I have some questions, some clarifications if you want to get through to the rest of the meeting. Good shot at the last shot, trying to get some clarification specifically on the way you said some things and the way Matt did. Because you're thinking, got some people confused. There's that. I'd be more than happy to do that. And we can get through the meeting, but just promise me you'll give me the time, right?
Not only do I promise you state ordering points. So just to be clear, I like to go into the regular meeting. If anybody needs to leave and you feel that you might otherwise not have had a chance to speak your mind on Netflix, please come to the microphone now. Out of respect for other people's time, be mindful that you're in the public hearing later for Netflix, but just to accommodate anybody that has to leave, is there anyone? Okay, seeing no one, we've had other comment on the agenda item, and so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn workshop. Yes, Aaron second. Faust, all in favor? Okay, so workshop is adjourned. It's 8:44. We're going to go into the regular meeting. And please, if you have other comments, you're welcome to stay. Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 8:44 p.m. This is a regular meeting in the Mayor and Council of Borough of Eatontown for Wednesday. This meeting has been advertised in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. So notice of the meeting has been published in the Asbury Park Press, the Star Ledger, and the News. Posted on the Wilson board will allow the Borough wall, and both will go to the Borough website. Public comment is long at any time, and for clarification, there will be a public comment hearing. The public hearing for the CPA is separate and indefinite vote.
Councilmember Reason.
Here.
Council President Zase. Here. Councilmember Jones. Right. Councilmember Armand. Here. Councilmember Lawson. Here. Councilmember Faust. Here. Councilmember Escalante. Here.
Okay, I'm going to guess tonight, to the extent that we either eliminate your council meeting through force or make them 30 seconds or less of Billy, you're still allowed to carry a gun. Stay in Jersey. The first item on the agenda will be the approval of minutes for the workshop, the regular 10/8/2025. If someone likes to vote, so vote. Plus, it's please.
I noticed that what I told you minutes, it's directly what we're saying. Yes, for this reason why I said it is short.
So the statute is reasonably comprehensible and they're not verbatim minutes. Once you receive them, those are several days before.
Yeah,
so, then when you do, you should ask what we can make Julie anymore and the call or whatever it is. But you should reach out to the button, and if in their professional judgment, more should be added, or a council votes to the end, or the minute we didn't mention it, fine.
Yes, that's what it's done. Said you once you review the minutes, you feel well. I said for everybody, it's not included in the minutes. One of these you told. Yeah, what we do is some.
And the problem that we run is though, if 10 questions are answered, yes, the meetings will include all 10, the general theme, you seeking this part of like the professional judgment of the court will be absolutely suggest them as important.
And the audio is always posted, but it's also stuff.
So we have a motion and a second. But all in favor? Communications, we'll take them together A through C if somebody would like to move them. Mrs. Jones, so Wilson, all in favor? No mayor's report tonight. Emergency services, 30 seconds for Wilson.
Okay. Everyone knows going to be those meetings where I announced about twice, but I just want to announce it. I think there's some places that averages. My chapter in the Associated Congress, a sawmill in Hoboken, Kentucky, market target agencies handing out as a fundraiser for their carrying and repair projects throughout Darrows. Seek such fund dollars and can purchase a sword, the goals to raise $25,000 in 2025. But the hearing of the activity is to tear the better in the facility store. And the pen gives the customer against to the service stores. Also, I'm glad about the building funds. The current, coming for 10 case,
That's great. Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you. The date for the now, or we can start the next meeting.
Probably very brief announcements. Like also since I am asked to carry the rope from last meeting. The financing ordinance committee will be on October 28th at 10:51 p.m. The next public meeting for the Anderson's Regulatory Commission is Thursday, December 11th at 11 a.m. and it's on live stream for users only. The State Board of Education. And yeah, it'll be in person, but you can do it live on YouTube. The next Board of Education meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 27th at 7 p.m. And that's a lot of Regional High School Board of Education meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 18th at 7:30 p.m. No updates on standards in the unhot meeting. The next environmental commission meeting will be held on Tuesday, October 28th at 7 p.m. It is a hybrid meeting. No updates for LPD services or substance abuse prevention. The youth committee will have a meeting event on Wednesday, November 5th at 6:30 p.m. at the Community Center, which is 72 Broad Street. Couple quick announcements. Election day is Tuesday, November 4th from 6 p.m. If you're not sure what polling place to go to cast a ballot and vote, you can go to mountainhouse.com to look up where your polling place is. Eatontown Student Government Day, we will actually have our Eatontown K through 8 and high school students actually participate in a council meeting. That is scheduled for Wednesday, November 12th at 7 p.m. And we are working with both of our K through 8 in our high school districts. Underwear, coats, and other cold weather items. In November, we're just finalizing logistics. We're also going to be having the food donation drive to benefit our food pantry here in now. Potentially also be in November or December of this year. Just confirming the logistics of it, if that gives you our work.
Thank you, Councilman Ireland. Please, number what? Lawson Recreation Center.
So it's always these council meeting, we did not have a policy recreation. I've seen the annual Eatontown Recreation it was so crazy to fair fires. Recreation now the toward Eatontown recreation 3 basketball funding or boys and girls age 4 and 5, 6 sessions starting for January 2026 at Belgium School Year. Will be on Saturday morning, 5 to 9:45 a.m. Also, registration is now open for Eatontown Recreation Winter Basketball. Open boys and girls with K through 8, $25 per player, including community practices, 7 league games, and a theater show. The practices start week of December 1st. Games on January 5th and January 27th. To visit for all ages, K through 8. While the gear coaches are lead. The next recreation advisory committee meeting will be Thursday, November 6th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in the Second Board Conference Room right here, Wall 47 4th Street. That is filled by the board. Thank you.
Thank you, the Councilwoman Sweet W and
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to invite everybody that the Issues Advisory Committee is again doing their Moonlight Series walks. So we will have a lantern guided tour with scary stories. This Friday, October 24th, at the Arboretum. Bring your flashlights. You can bring your dog. I know a lot of the kids bring their glow sticks and necklaces. So come and join us for a great day. And I also wanted to just kind of near what Councilwoman Jones says, trying to get ready for the food drive. I did leave out the sign up sheet in the back here for your name, your number, your email, and your address. How we've done it in the past is plus $30, but we used to get somebody's address and they would leave their donations at the door. We kind of them up to make it for you guys if you can log this stuff yourself. So please put your name, number, email, and address on that, and I'll make sure that we get it tested.
The one that you cannot finish the DPW report without acknowledging the chief gracious upon of the city.
Yes.
There you go. That's the biggest thing.
Those are articles that the journal period like Dear Mayor and Council, the Eatontown Journal Committee will honor the service of veterans and active duty service members during our Sunday. Each flag is dedicated in honor or in memory of a veteran or active duty service member. Additional flags are available on the day of our open house or anywhere visiting the day for honor button. Our guard is a visible reminder of the service and sacrifices of our military men. We invite you to attend our open house and join us honoring those who have served our country as those who are currently doing so. This is really a family circle.
Thank you for bringing us up. Just great support. Administrative support, Chief.
I reserve my report, man.
Thank you. So we have the ordinance 17/2025. So I know is you take it out of order. We have a public hearing for the CBA first. I see what that I'm getting from some of the people and hand us the CEA. I want to ensure that you've had a chance. And then so we need to go by a lot of people at school. So let's just do this public hearing or you with us moving benefits. And just to be clear, truly, this is the public hearing for the community benefits agreement between the Borough of Eatontown, Netflix Inc., and the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. This portion of the meeting will be a public hearing on the community benefits agreement between Eatontown, Netflix, and the ADA. As part of the New Jersey Economic Recovery Act of 2020, the Aspire Program Act was established. In that act, for those projects, the total cost equal to or greater than $10 million, plus enter into a community benefits agreement with the authority and the municipality or county in which the project is located. As a condition of the Aspire, it says the borough negotiated an amount of $5 million. This is separate and apart from the pilot arrangement, which is negotiated over a long period of discussion. Before we begin the public hearing, I wanted to provide a broad framework of what the funds can be spent on, according to the regs. The agreement may include, but shall not be limited to, requirements for training, employment, and use of and free services to underserved communities in and around the community in which the redevelopment project is located, as well as any other program element on the project site or in the host community intended to improve the community health, safety, access to opportunity, recreational opportunity, environmental resilience, and environmental quality of life, other local prioritized community benefit. As you can see, the rules are quite broad, and we have a lot of latitude on programs. And this is very great, very good for flexibility. I've been speaking about this publicly for quite some time with the Scouts, TA, volunteer groups from the museum. I've spoken with 2 county commissioners on several partnerships with the county, local charities, veteran businesses, and many other community stakeholders. But it officially begins here. This is the beginning of the process. You are here at begin. So let's start the public hearing, and as you do, thank you for live streaming. I think a good goal, since our technology is failing, we should have a goal in the 20th community benefits agreement. I'd like to come to the microphone. You're welcome to share anything. However, I'd like to share ideas of what you think the borough should fund with this. It's a committee will be established. Help fund it. But it's good that we speak broadly. Because let's say you say something that has nothing to do with community benefits. It may be the impetus of a project under the $47 million. And I'd love to hear from them. So just your name and your address.
Nicole Bradbury. What's on very good Nicole Bradbury, BROCK, Spark ITT. I'm an educator in the town school system and have been for 21 years. I'm also a product of this system. I went to school here. I lived here my entire adolescence and adulthood. I would like to speak on behalf of some of the possibilities for these public benefits. While I think all investments into the Eatontown public school system is an investment that would be worthwhile for all of our students, regardless of where it's invested, because we are invested in the future of our children. And they do come back. We are evidence of that. We are all residents here, and we are now part of our community and as educators. So it is an investment in the future, and they are our future. But one thing I'd like to speak about specifically tonight is the arts, music, and theater departments. I would love to see funding go for our theater, for our students to have outlets, other outlets besides the sports, which I love the sports. We're advocating for all of it. But the theater department allows students to showcase talents and skills that they may not even know they have, or cultivate the pre-existing ones that they can explore through a theater department. And as long as we're thinking big, I would love to see a performing arts center that the entire community could use and be able to benefit from, regardless of the public school, just the community in general. And I would love to see for my co-director, who is not with me tonight, because she has music rehearsals, for musical instruments to be available to her so that students that may or may not be able to afford instruments for whatever the reason may explore, have a talent that they might be able to explore outside of the one that they're trying, to have musical instruments out there accessible.
Great. So noted.
Thank you. My colleague and friend.
I mean, that's what is an application.
Robert Giuliano, 398 Grand Avenue. I'm an art teacher at Eatontown Workshop School. I've been there for 15 years now. I've also been a lifelong resident here at Eatontown, and I'm advocating again for our school system. We are often compared with Tin Falls, who we go to the same regional high school with, and we are very far behind with Tin Falls right now, with facilities. And quite honestly, it's embarrassing at times. We hear a lot of comments from other teams when they come, how our facilities are not as safe as they should be. The fields are not in the best condition sometimes, especially at the school. Now, we work closely with Eatontown Recreation and DPW, and they do a great job at 80 acres, but our school is nowhere near where it needs to be, the outdoor facilities. It has always been a dream of ours to get a baseball field at Memorial School, the 60-90 dimensions, where our students can have a place to play and have a safe place to play and have representation of our school pride instead of having us to get bused to 80 acres. So if some of the money could be facilitated towards that, that'd be much appreciated. Might also utilize Woodmere School baseball field, which is also extremely outdated and not kept the way it really should be. If the money could be allocated towards that in some capacity, that would also be appreciated. I am also the Drug Alliance coordinator here in Eatontown. Over the years, we've had funding cut a little bit through the Open Court Sports Night program, CSA, our SPEAK program, the summer camp. These are great programs that keep kids safe, keep them away from drugs and alcohol. And because of the budget cuts, we have limited times where we can be with them. So if some of the money could be allocated back into those programs, we could give them, again, more opportunities to stay as safe as possible, to learn, and just be around good role models. So that's basically what I'm advocating here for tonight. Thank you.
Reason why I never had a fear that we would be allocating funds to this pilot to the schools, because look at the community support for the dressing needs in the school. It was never down my mind.
My name is Skylar Marvin, 2 Jake Drive, Tip Falls. Skylar Marvin, 2 Jake Drive, Tip Falls. Advocating for the student athletes tonight. I am the head coach of boys soccer, and our soccer field is more of a dirt field. We're playing on a baseball field that is pure dirt. When it rains, it's very tough to get out there and play without possible injury risk, and it puts me in a very tough predicament. DPW has been great. They always do a great job in constant communicating with teaching with them, and they do a fabulous job. But I would love possibly, with the money you're getting, maybe we can get turf. I mean, you look at Cabellion, Tin Falls. You look at Tin Falls. I live in Tin Falls now, and all I hear is, oh, we're Eatontown. And I take pride in that. I take pride. I'm 27 years old. I'm going to be here for 30 plus years. I'm not going anywhere. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to put Eatontown back on the map. I was one of the last class of Fort Monmouth in Eatontown.
Oh, you're right.
And I remember when Fort Monmouth was here, Eatontown to boom, and we were proud to be a part of Eatontown. And I'm seeing now where kids are almost afraid. Oh, I go to Eatontown schools.
Why don't you go to Cold Snack? Why don't you go to Middletown? Why don't you go to Tim Falls? And I look at that kid and I'm like, I work in Eatontown schools. I went to Eatontown schools. So Eatontown is a beautiful place to be. I want to put Eatontown back on the map. I want this to be a proud community where the kids feel comfortable saying, yes, I go to Eatontown Memorial School, you know? So the soccer field for me is, you know, we are very competitive at soccer. We're going to the semifinals in third consecutive year. So please come out and support. You guys are available Monday at 3:45 p.m. But I'm also Mr. Bronia and I, Chris Bronia, Prince Memorial School. Him and I have been advocating for wrestling. We finally got that this year. Okay. Wrestling mats, $12,000. Right now we have a school that is going to donate us mats. If not, we got to figure out a way to get mats that are, again, $12,000. It's a lot of money. Now, where are we storing those mats? Wrestling is going to be in the cafeteria in our school. Again, we're starting a program, so I'm very grateful for that. He is as well. Is this program going to be able to continue in the cafeteria? I don't know. I hope it can. I want it to. So what can we do to keep this program from year one to year? Again, I'm going to be here plus 30 plus years. I'm 27, so like a whole career funding. I want to keep this program going.
Thank you. This is exactly what we want to hear. These types of items. Thank you.
We have a weight room also, Memorial School. Again, I think this is year 4 that we've had the weight room. There's been no growth. We have space in Memorial School. We have the locker rooms. Can we possibly expand and grow a weight room where the kids can work out? You student athletes work out, not even student athletes, teachers go in there as well. Let's expose these. We have 6th grade now. I think it's awesome. Let's expose these kids to working out, taking care of their bodies. Fitness is very important, not only because you want to look good and feel good, mentally. I have certain kids that come in the weight room or come in the gym, which I'm in, and Mr. Marvin, can I run the treadmill for 20 minutes? I'd love to. Love for there to be a period where they can go and exercise, possibly at their lunchtime. We need to find more avenues and ways to get these kids physically fit and healthy and feel good about themselves, because that is a massive crisis, I think, in the world going on. So I'm willing to help out. Everyone here is as well. Let's make this happen.
Joe Fritchie, 36 Buckwood. Also the 36 Buckwood.
Jody Ross, 35 foot now.
I personally can speak for my daughter, who is both plays softball and also is in the art club at Better School. She is very much into the arts, the arts, and some type of art program in school would be terrific. Also, her playing softball, and so my son playing baseball. My son is fully staged out, so it's not so much him, but more my daughter, who will be playing softball for a while in the schools. With Eatontown Little League, we've now just taken in softball as well, and we are growing the softball program here. We went from about 18 girls, 35 girls in a year, and we are trying to continue to build that strength in softball. And we have been working with the schools, with the coaches of the schools, to try to connect the Memorial School with the softball program that we have at Little League. And we've already had nice communication with Coach Marvin and Coach G. And we also agreed that there should be a facility in Eatontown that could be turfed, that could not only offer a place for 69 baseball, for 46 it's the softball, 46 it's the Little League. If there's a situation where you get a lot of rain, unfortunately, we are currently using Wolcott Park, which is gorgeous and my favorite park in the entire town, but also lays very low and ends up getting completely soaked with water. And when we try to have softball games, it may take 3 or 4 days before it's dry enough so you can play games at those fields. Now, a turf facility would take care of that situation. I would really like to continue to build the softball program here in Eatontown to compete with the girls that are playing in St. Falls, because ultimately we're going to Mount Region together. And we need to stay on that same level that they're at. If you go to Tidda Falls and see their beautiful brand facility over there that is also turfed, where my daughter is currently playing games at, because we unfortunately don't have the facilities over at Wolfpack Parks to be able to handle that type of program. So I'm also advocating for turf, and also the Arcs did.
So we the way on the street.
Amanda Zorick, 174 Sand Spring, proud Eatontown resident since 2016. I'm here in my official capacity as PTA president for Eatontown Schools. Our Eatontown Schools PTA does cover all 4 schools in town, and we represent about 1,000 students of varying backgrounds and heritages and cultures. And really makes me proud that we're able to do that. And Eatontown is so diverse. Just as the PTA is growing the past couple of years, we started doing things like translating our agendas and, minutes and some of our social posts into different languages, just to make sure that we are representing the community. And I think we have a lot of diverse needs. In case anyone doesn't know, the PTA does fund all of the field trips that the students go on from pre-K to 7th grade, partial on the 8th grade field trip, so that no student, no matter, what their socioeconomic status is, doesn't have to pay for a field trip. And we give everybody a shirt that they can wear so they're able to show the Eatontown school spirit. We fund curriculum enrichment, STEM programs, social emotional learning programs in partnership with the school counselors. And one of the things that was started 2 years ago is a Shark Tank program, in which 2 years ago we allocated $10,000 to teachers to fund varying size projects. A couple of things that were pretty cool. And why am I forgetting the technology teacher's name right now? Some of y'all been in Homesteader.
Homesteader Loxton.
No, I'm sorry. Memorial Homesteader. Homesteader. Who's the one? She got the virtual reality goggles.
Negatory.
Okay. So she got virtual reality goggles to help enhance her lessons in a way that would be really fun for kids in middle school. We had a reading specialist in Meadowbrook who was able to fund a fun way to teach kids how to read, so that reading is more fun, and literacy, is a big problem. And so I think these teacher grants are really, really important. We'd love to do more. We are out there begging and pleading for dollars every day from local businesses and from parents to make donations so that we can make those things possible. So while possible, I would love to ask for more money for teacher grants so that we can give projects. You guys have amazing projects, and some of them are on a large scale. Some teachers just need a couple $100 to fund the other things that they need. So on behalf of PTA, I just ask for teacher grants.
Hello, Linda Rogers, 16 Law Drive. I am a member of the Board of Education, although I'm here tonight representing myself. A lot of what I'll say will be about schools. I have 2 children in the schools. I went through these schools myself to make great in Monmouth Regional. I was just saying, I graduated from preschool and went to the community center. So adorable. It looks just the same. In the last 20 years, we're 40. So in light of that, just thinking about some of the various things that affect our schools, our children, and our community as a whole, I just want to echo some of the things that have already been said. As Mrs. Brockreed said, funding for the arts and theater program would be incredible. At present, there is not really a great space within our school district for students to perform. Memorial does have a stage, but there is no backstage, so to speak. So there's no way for students to enter. Lighting and sound system is minimal. Some of the other spaces in the school district have similar problems in terms of those types of logistics. So I like the idea of a performing arts center, exactly where that money can come from, whether that belongs in the school or in the community as a whole, perhaps even at a rehab community center where the whole community could use it for events, would be wonderful to see. Some of the other types of projects that I think are long overdue are, again, it's not changed a bit since I was in school there. Memorial School's parking lot leading back to those fields is not even gravel. We made a dirt road. Yeah. Off the dirt road. I'm thinking about it not just from an appearance standpoint, but also an accessibility standpoint for people who want to go, who might have accessibility issues, or on the uneven surfaces. It's a safety and an accessibility issue over there. Soccer fields already discussed. And so, when you look at where the kids are now playing soccer for Eatontown Rec, they're over at 80 acres, which is great for parking, but has some of those issues that I think we've heard about. Dirt bikes going through them, it's tearing up the fields right before the children are scheduled to play, which you would not see if you had a turf field available for the kids. I don't know, the turf is the only solution, but again, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit scattered. There are so many different projects that are out there, and I don't know exactly what ones would be best from community benefits agreement, which ones would be better from pilot, parking lots, and so forth are super exciting, but at the same time are really necessary for accessibility, safety, even just being able to access some of these spaces. And when we had the soccer over at Meadowbrook, it was, a nice space over there. But at the same time, getting in and out of that parking lot was very hazardous and not really practical just because it's dirt and there's not really use spacing or, real clear places where people are supposed to be and where they are not supposed to be. This one, again, might be more of a pilot take or something, but I, shouldn't go without saying that at present, our preschools are split up among multiple buildings. Some of those are shared partnerships with other businesses within the community. So they're not necessarily Eatontown employees that are working with the children, even though they are under the Eatontown School District. So looking towards centralizing the preschool would be certainly a great thing to look at on a wish list. Again, that might be a bigger type of project than a community benefits to perhaps build a centralized preschool, but with massive benefits for the kids, for their learning and creating a little bit more continuity and consistency with better kids are experiencing those studies. Even things like science labs were a quick throwaway, but at the same time, a really important thing. So right now in the schools, the students who are in the 7th and 8th grade classes, if they're taking science, there are scheduled days when they can go to a science lab, but they're not taking the science class day after day in an actual lab setting. Not a huge project necessarily, although costs are, remain to be seen once you start working with contractors and so forth. But having plumbing in the classroom, countertops that are safe for chemical use, and some of those kind of smaller scale improvements would be tremendously beneficial. I teach at a a county-wide school that draws students from all over the county, and the kids coming in from Marlborough, Manalapan, Polston, and even sometimes that don't have the high level of wealth are having daily science labs that they're able to do. And one of the reasons why they like science so much is because they have that day-to-day experience that our kids unfortunately don't have. They're taking, labs that are done on a computer as opposed to actually getting their hands on glassware or chemicals and doing some of those things that really engage them and we teach them in a very different way than putting them through a simulation. So, I guess, sorry if that was a little bit not cohesive. I have lots of different interests. And I would love to see any of these things, anything would be a step in the right direction. Thank you so much for the, and I really appreciate and acknowledge that, the stigmas, for cooperation. That is wonderful moving forward. Tom, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for community benefits agreement?
Hi there. My name is Nelson Ortiz, City Copperfield Court. I too am a city board member, and although my tenure is coming to an end at the end of this year, I just want to react to what everybody said here. Pretty much just took everything I was saying, thinking with regards to the preschool department, sports. I've always been a soccer guy, so I'm really looking forward to a turf field. I've always joked around about a town pool. I was just joking about that, but it's an ongoing thing that I say with the board. I think what your commitment to the Board of Education for the last 9 years that I've been on the board shows, and I don't doubt, I have no doubt that you will make sure that we have the funds that we need to continue to invest in our future. And as he said, I would also like to see something more recreational for kids between the ages of preteen to 16, 17. Because, back in the day, I can speak for some of us here, we were mall rats. We would go to the mall. That doesn't exist anymore. Where do our kids go nowadays? And I don't know how to answer that. Go down to Red Bank. Wawa seems to be a big thing with kids going to Wawa. But I'd like to see something more interactive, even if it's after school sports or out of school sports, like volleyball, something to keep kids engaged. Then back in the day, we did arcades. That's, carry an arcade in my pocket now, so it's changed a lot. So Just to echo what everybody said here, it sounds great. I love the fact that our comments came down. The eyesore that
you're going to get a soccer field right there.
that soccer field was hidden. Remember when I was doing a lot of coaching for rec, we moved that over to Meadowbrook. That Meadowbrook parking lot really needs to be addressed because it's interesting getting in and out of there. So just to react to everything everybody said here, I think we're hopefully heading in that right direction. And I do appreciate the commitment that you have towards the board. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Kelly.
And I'll be quick. January 6th, we're talking about the turf field. It would be wonderful to kind of try around that because our kids on the middle school level, they just run to practice. They run around the buildings. And then all our home meets are at Rainy School or sometimes if we're lucky at the high school. So if you can add a track, that would be awesome.
Sounds good. Yeah. Even though, I didn't know this is the one statutory public hearing for community benefits agreement. There's no way in the world to sit down and talking about it. I want you to be aware that we'll be calling a committee. We'll be having a series of discussions, hoping that people listening on are now more comfortable that there is a 0% chance the school is going to be heard. Look at the comments from the school. This council is well aware of our need to be focused on the school funding. So this is exactly why I had no concern that funds would be allocated to the schools. Please.
Very short term.
Your name again one more time.
Ali Minawi, 114 Waypoint Drive, for Wonders for Journalism. I've heard 80 acres a couple of times. I coach rec soccer in there. There's motorcycle or dirt bikes. I'm sure you've heard. You have heard. Okay. Yeah, they mess up the field every single week. Now, while it is our last game this week for the kids, I don't know, put something around that it blocks them from going across.
So that has been discussed. The borough is looking at a couple different things. Rather not say publicly now.
Yeah, we don't have to. Yeah.
Rec is aware. We get a lot of phone calls from DPW. He works hard to make it look nice and a bunch of jerks. But if you see on Facebook, I'm calling them teenagers a jerk, but jerks trying to like to destroy it, and it's all A from around and want to look good. Me, it's unsafe, and it's kind of a different form of vandalism, if you will.
Yeah,
but yes, you're right.
I would say this, so I don't think there are bad kids. I think there are bad parents, and I hope that if they are watching, let's all do a better job with our children. And if I can just put it on record, I am so grateful that I came here today. And I apologize for Eatontown because I've never gotten involved. I'm one of those. I'm just gonna do my own thing, and thank you for letting me know, hey, the very first step is to get involved. Right? You don't get to complain if you don't vote. You don't get to complain if you don't show up for these events. So I'm very, very grateful that I got an opportunity to hear directly from everybody and participate. And, I love you, Eatontown. I want to do a better job. I promise you. You'll see this space a whole lot more. So thank you very much for
thank you. Anyone else? If someone comments on business. Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing and we continue that agreement. The items from this will be included in the minute attached to our agreement. One of the things that I required was that Netflix sign the agreement before the borough, right? We don't want to go ahead and have them back out. So they've already signed for the $5 during the resolution tonight. We're open to council to authorize these unions to sign all necessary documents. You see the $5 million. The form of that agreement has already been approved by the PDA. So now it's just a matter of doing their signatures. The schedule is within 10 business days of closing. You will receive the $5 million. I've already spoken with Netflix. We will receive it earlier because if the borough has to pass a resolution to formally receive it, I'd like that done before December. So Netflix already told me they'll wire it earlier if necessary. We'll deal with that. So now we're moving on. The public hearing is done, but always talking to talk about community benefit projects. Mr. Bayer, this is ordinance 17, 2025.
Yes, Mayor. This is an ordinance approving application for a long-term tax exemption and authorizing the execution of financial agreement with Netflix Eatontown Urban Renewal LLC.
Thank you. And just for clarity, this is the ordinance that would effectuate the pilot agreement. So everyone's clear. Would someone like to move for a public hearing? Sharon?
Second.
Jones? All in favor? Meeting is now open to the public on ordinance 17, 2025. Anyone who would like to be heard on ordinance 17, 2025, please come to the mic now. Sir Eisen, you're first. Thank you for waiting earlier.
Can I?
Absolutely.
You can I'm on the that.
Well, sure. We'll start directing in here and we'll see which person asking.
So as I started to allude to earlier, I think we might have confused the public a little bit on terms. So maybe you could just get some clarification. At least I can only speak for myself. I got a little confused. So we've heard numerous times about the 47 million being an upfront payment, correct?
Upfront availability of fund.
Okay, so now I know you started to time to go down at that and then begin. So you were talking about net bond proceeds going into a fund. So I think we're talking about the same thing, but a little differently in the sense that the 47 million now being clarified as available funds. And I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were alluding to that we don't have to, when you say borrow, you meant we'd be issuing bonds in amount? Maybe you can clarify that for us. What do you mean by bonds?
Sure. The $47 million that the borough's going to receive, that money is bond proceeds from non-recourse bonds being issued by the borough, secured solely by the pledged annual service charge, one of the things you had at the last meeting of on this. That's what $47 million comes from bond proceeds paid for by the pledged annual service charge. Cannot be paid for by the municipality, by the borough, by the county, by any taxpayer, solely paid by that pledged annual service charge.
Okay, so by looking at it now as not necessarily an upfront payment, but more as an available amount to be borrowed, the funds is just sort of assumes that.
Yes, and so what then that's a very powerful just as you were saying. My hesitation with using the word borrow is that some people actually thought the borough was literally bonding it, and then we would have taxpayers pay on the bonding. So what, and that was incorrect. So I chose to an upfront payment, and I chose the vocabulary of availability of funds because I was trying to convey the message that when we borrow that, we're not making to pay, we're receivable.
Right, okay, so term borrow also can be confused because it's synonymous with loans. This has absolutely nothing to do with loans at all. So that's why I was trying to get the clarification on that language that's going back and forth because a lot of publics getting confused. And this, now we're getting this clarified, this also does speak to that 3-year issue where we're saying that you have to spend the fund. I'm going to explain it, but you don't have to expend the funds until you borrow the money. So I think what you're saying is the mayor and council would have the option to issue bonds, let's just say as needed to fund identified projects. And then that clock starts ticking. So I don't know where to hear that.
I'm only going to say exactly because you said that correct. Yes.
Okay, that's correct. Right, so maybe that helps with some of the confusion on the time frames and when the plots start and available funds and so forth. Okay, all right, so that's it. So, then bond proceeds. When the bonds are issued, at what price are the bonds to be issued at? Are they issued at
As par?
they issued at hundreds?
Yes, I think we anticipate they're issued at par.
Yes, it's that one. Okay. Can Netflix, so Netflix is actually purchasing the bonds. So the borough of Eatontown municipalities issuing the bonds, and then I asked that last time and said, yes, it's not a Netflix issue, it's municipality issue. And where I also was to look at the mayor said last time that I could buy the bonds, but really that's not the case because
Netflix is borrowing a lot.
I mean, just talking about complicated death. I'm not sure when that could happen. I might defer to Mike a little bit, but yeah, not yet.
I don't think that makes it as literally you could buy it early. Obviously, that you just you could buy it, but
Well, you're misunderstanding my point. I'm saying I thought we were selling it to the public. I know, right. That, but that's not what I heard tonight. What I'm hearing is we're issuing those bonds and Netflix is purchasing them.
Correct.
Okay. So, so I was going to ask, at what price would these bonds normally have gone for? Because I've looked at my portfolios and things like that. I have 5% federal and state tax free, New Jersey tax free. You know, they're 116 and 12 on the yeah, well, yeah. Dunnings.
Advice is Patty's important.
But we don't really know what, we don't have an idea what they might sell for anymore.
It's when you say,
Awesome doctors.
Okay. But they would go out some type of,
Or at far the higher to about them, the yield would be higher than the 5% on the twist.
okay. And Netflix sell the bonds after we issue.
Yes.
So that they, in effect, could enjoy if the bonds were at a premium, they would be able to enjoy the profits on how they should get it.
They go for now.
So, I'm going to ask the question. I don't know if legally it can be done, but I'm thinking that these bonds would be at a premium. I might know what I heard what you said, but my opinion is these bonds would go at a premium. And the way we're structuring this deal is the municipality wouldn't be enjoying the premium amount. So just kind of put it in perspective.
I don't agree. Yeah. These bonds. What class?
I'm glad I asked the question because before anything. So, because when you're talking about managing risk, so by doing it this way, if you think it might be some kind of discount, it's sort of then to from the municipality to our at this way. But yeah, that's it. But I don't think they talked about it in these terms at all. So now, that's all right. So could you just take me through high level cash flow as to how this might work? Let's assume that the mayor council decides to borrow to issue all 47 million on fund. Okay. So now it's a 5% bond. So now there would be 5% of the 47 million in interest with the Jensen bond. Back to Netflix. Right. So Netflix, so how would that work? How would the interest get paid to the bond? So Netflix pays the bondholder directly? It doesn't go through the municipality?
It could, but would.
That's correct. Yes, the Netflix will pay the pledged pilot, which is the portion of the pilot that only goes to pay debt service on the bonds. They will pay that to the borough by way of paying it directly to the bond trustee. The bond trustee will then use that money to pay debt service on the bonds to the bondholder.
Okay, any, because we're talking about, millions of dollars in the aggregate here. So can the municipality get any interest on any timing differences on these millions of dollars between Netflix, the trustee, the bondholder?
So the pilot payment will be paid quarterly. Debt service is paid semi-annually.
Right. And then the repayment of the bonds, let's say, I asked about callability last time, but let's say the bonds are going to go to the maturities in the 30-year bond, but probably year 32, I guess, is when that 7.5 right? So how would the face value of the bonds actually get paid? The last thing. So am I right in thinking that if the 47 million ultimately gets issued / borrowed, that none of the principal would be paid back until the bonds mature? That's here's where I'm confused. So if I bought, say, 10,000, I'm not going to get my $10,000 back until it matures. So I'm not going to be selling advertising. And 80 goes.
Okay, so I want to just put in the context of the way the municipalities borrow those things. Right? It's this, I've been hoping this sort of house was the point. The municipality wants to do a project. They borrow $1 million in bonds with a 10-year maturity schedule. Right? $100,000 of that $1 million in principal is repaid by the municipality every year to the bondholders. Oh, now you may be holding, you may have bought a $100,000 bond that's due in year 9. So you're not getting your principal back until year 9. But the bondholders in total are getting back $100,000 of principal in every year for the 10-year period that's the fund issue.
That's the part I'm guessing that the bondholders are. And the principal, I thought the principal was going into some loan with the trust. And that's not the case.
Yeah, the principal of the bonds gets repaid annually, just like the municipal.
Jump in here because I heard a sentence that I just want to make sure that it's Facebook. You said the borough is going to pay it back. Some people might hear that and think that taxpayer dollars are paying that bond. You state on the record that taxpayer dollars not made.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I said that in the comments. My example on the $1 million, this is trying to illustrate the way you, the borrower, normally borrow for general fundings. For the bonds issued, the non-recourse bonds issued to fund the redevelopment downtown, redevelopment projects and improvements, Those are non-recourse to the borough. Neither the borough taxpayer or the borough budget or any other local government will be paying debt service. The debt service comes solely from the pledge that was served.
The academic exercise is happening here, regardless of the final determination. At no time will the borough have access less than 47, and at no time will we be making payments. Correct?
Correct. And the bond documents will be clear. We actually literally use bold capital letters to say that the borough budget.
That were on the borough website, which was the bond one that I think you were just alluding to. Do we have that? Have we presented that or something in any which way? Yeah, that's the bond. I don't have 107 million on that. There was the bond debt service. Is that? I'm going to guess this right, but is the bond debt service schedule what you were alluding to as to how the interest expense will get to be? Yes, this 107 million altogether. All right, I'm almost done. Thank you for noting me on this. Well, all right, so I'm looking at this, the bond debt service, Borough of Eatontown redevelopment area bonds. So just so the public is kind of following me here, it shows 52 million in principal, I'm rounding, and 52.5 in principal, I'm talking millions, and 55.3 in interest for a total of almost $108 million. So this transaction is more than just the 47 million in the land use, it's the excess municipal, and it's also the $108 million in you call these calculations. Right? Correct. And that's what's theoretically yours. Correct?
Yes.
Right? I just noticed this, but on this sheet it says redevelopment area bonds. So I know these are RAVs, but it says municipal complex project, series 25. Why does it say municipal complex project when we're talking about the pilot for Netflix?
I think a pilot application.
Yes, that really should be, it's kind of odd because your redevelopment plan that you already adopted in your borough, it is called the Downtown Village Redevelopment Plan, right? That's what should be referenced in that section. That's what's a reference in the actual bond documents. Downtown Village Redevelopment.
When we look at the documents that are to the Global Finance Board, we learn the uses that are available. It referred to the Talc Grind. They refer to the dam. They refer to downtown. They refer to paving. They refer to sewers. They refer to the DPW building, which is falling apart. They refer to the fire house. They refer to the municipal complex. But some paving is there as well. And you heard also when I mentioned the schools. So there's a multitude of projects that are actually will be applying for. That gives us the flexibility to do the type of work.
Right, and I know you made the comment a couple times about at least one project in the redevelopment area. So I assume when you said the redevelopment area, you probably were referring to the downtown redevelopment area. Correct.
I think that
Not necessarily mom, square.
no, so, no, that's what I think that one of the things you'll hear people mention soon is that they should do something for the and some of the business leaders I met with them abroad and so is looking at trying to pave and improving the streetscape there, because if we don't finance those types of improvements, we very easily say to the developer, hey, you know what? Go downtown. And we say, sure, $1 million will pay me. But guess what they're going to want? Identity housing, so they come for the cost for them. And you're not going to get them out. Oh, you're going to get some big developer for the $1 million. Instead, we invest in downtown, make the streetscapes nice, the lighting nice, taking care of that downtown area. Then you don't need to rely on some developer that wants to come in, get this high density housing for that area. You're going to have an area where small businesses actually come in and have a storefront and be able to finance operations. Investing in the downtown is a considerable portion of the cost.
Right. But certainly not all 47 million. But there are
a lot of streets that are calling and a lot of sewer systems that would be had problems.
Okay. I was going to ask you about Oath Report, but I decided I'm not going to go down that line. All right, I think that's Steve said. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
Lane sounds so.
Appreciate it. Let me fire away. Hopefully there's a black one. All right.
After that, you know. I'm sorting made some people more confused and some people more clear or Halloween comments, excuse me, that were in 2025. Just to be clear, the next action after this will be a motion to adopt or reject this order. Does anybody have any public comments on the ordinance 17 2025 that actually applies? Okay, I'm seeing a motion to close the public hearing. Jones, close the public hearing. All in favor? Cool. I'd like a motion in a second and then council discussion. Someone would like to move this forward. So basically, town meeting. The only town does, right, June?
It's an ordinance approving application for long-term tax exemptions and authorizing the execution from the financial agreement with Lake Eatontown Urban Renewal LLC.
Oh, would someone like to? Val?
Second.
Does anyone have any unanswered questions?
No, but I think it's the best way that go. What to be safe way to fight it then let's you.
Okay, they don't need to start.
Yeah, but majority of most on 37, 40, the all said about that. Then they did their first 15 minutes. And then teams did their half vision. It felt pretty funny. It's fun. We went through a wall and past the fields that could come up was through the wall. When that touch was announced, we were calling, it's exciting. Needed that happy. It was complex, but you need it. I want to thank personally, right, Darren and the experts of my content. Now, all professional, always available, it ends the every question. I thought I had an answer for that.
That's all. That's all. Yes, unresolved question and concerns. I want to thank the professional that help us provide us the job. Wendy, Matt, really great source of information, and it helps us get knowledge.
Terrible thing for our residents. And it's when we're bringing that project that is first to conspire this area, I feel that putting us in this situation, so you're just that. It's concrete isn't the best idea. And if we don't need to do numbers, we're more like the professional, they're going to make you fast for help on staff. And for us, whether it be agree or disagree or a person with that, speaking is just on friendships, and also just move forward for the law of the students.
Example, I don't have the slightest bit of the concern that we'd be spending in the schools because I knew inherently that people that are calling against the schools, I don't think the public has any reasons he's out. You would have 7 years in the year 2026 to the next 30 years if we don't significantly consider school, both the financial investment for the well-being of the colleagues, how would you? Anyone else before we move on?
That's right. I mean, the price, take every price, but especially the professional times that our fathers can do. I think we played the best game of phone that I can afford, but we finally did it. The fuck many times, a couple of times. You will, but I think, we must see right as mentioned, filling the issue as well. I spoke to him, me, had put time on with me, he got to me, and, every question that I asked to answer, things that I wasn't sure of, they answered and moved forward. I just think that just, that's kind of yes. And then all the, press, everybody can be, using Jill beings every day where they apologize for all the calls, but that's why they didn't show up after this meeting falls. Pretty much, okay, it's great to hear that.
Kim Young, and thank you for one.
I would think your business saying thank you much. It is like I'm supposed to shit on. It's to stay in others. Multifaceted, difficult, and challenging conversations we've had for several years. And I even just appreciate just the time taken to answer this question, even with the meeting, and just even explaining some things. I'm like, okay, put this in common person terms, or what does this mean? And how do I even tell this to my neighbors and, you know, our parents about what's going on? So I appreciate that. But I also want to thank everybody here tonight, the public, because it's important that we hear from you. We represent you, and whether you like it or not, like whether you like it or not, that's why we want to hear from you, and you have the opportunity to let us know like what your concerns are and what your feedback or what your comments are. So even when, I'm sorry, what was your name?
Ali. Yeah.
Even though this is your first
Oh, I loved it. It was like Six Flags for me. This is great. Emotional roller coaster, but yeah, it's still great. It was Disney World. Yeah, it was great.
are like invested, they committed.
Yeah.
And I can say like similar to Eric, like a majority of us here on council. Actually, this is my hometown. I grew up here. I went to school here. My government been here since 1991. So I'm really hopeful to see that whatever decision is made tonight is in the best interest of this municipality. We're taking care of our residents and all the business owners are here and everything else that we can move forward. Because I have heard how why are like Red Bank and other towns moving up and moving forward and we're not doing it. I think, and so I just think I really do appreciate all the time and energy and the numerous conversations we've had so that we can make the best decision moving forward. So I really want to say thank you to not only to our professionals, but also thank you for the residents for coming out and sharing your concerns and your opinions and your thoughts about what's going on, because it's important that we hear from you.
It's absolutely. Be honest. First I want to say, I think that puts a great opportunity for this town to stay right along with the dollars. It is a big looking for on that. You have to remember the tour. So, this is a big opportunity. And let me walk it to like, share the place and stuff.
Okay. So everyone's questions have been addressed or opportunities to do so. Public comment, you've got council comment, we've got a motion and second, correct, Julie? Okay, hold it on.
So we have council presidencies. We have Councilmember Jones. Yeah. Councilmember Artman.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson.
Yes.
Councilmember Faust. Yes. Councilmember Stones.
Would you like to clarify why?
We don't feel confident that it. I've spent now in the hours training is so important. It does be changed. And it's up to me, but it didn't. I just stop.
Thank you. Okay, yes, the meeting is now open for public comment on agenda items only. Anybody would like to say anything? Thank you so much. Microphone? Captain Bill.
Nine plays, explain that.
Thank you. Agenda items only, yeah.
where can we find the transcript of the conversations from tonight?
There's no transcript. When they get to the minutes are made. The minutes are approved at the next council meeting, whether it's majority or quorum. They go on the previous minutes. It is in the previous meeting. But just like tonight, we used to just go on environment and to the next meeting.
So forgive my ignorance, but if I wanted reference for today's conversation,
There's so much which choice would be here. Yeah. I'm sorry. No, it's fine. It's fine.
yeah, just again, forgive my ignorance. If I wanted to find reference to today's conversations and the discussions back and forth, where
The audio is generally available shortly after the meeting. Guys, it's just, we're picking up on the microphone if you don't mind. The audio is generally available shortly after the meeting, was it the next day? It's because today at 3:00 when she logged in here, she couldn't get her desk view. So at 3:00, you were scrambling the VIP department, calling the chief and trying to get it done. So technology is something what
no.
generally speaking, it's in the next day or two. Something that's the audio will be linked to the website.
So we said same Monday.
It could be as early as tomorrow, but yes, it's been fun.
Yeah, I just asked and I want to get all the data so we can put it out to the. Thank you so much.